You came here to be a part of an interstellar awakening, and by the time you are leading, you will not just be leading on this planet, but potentially in other realms, in other places, but it's all connected. And that if you are here to truly make the impact that your soul said that it would come here to make, you're going to have to heal every part of yourself. Just as the masters who walked before you knew that they could only reach as many people as how much wholeness they were willing to reclaim for themselves, this will be the same for you. We're all walking each other home back to the remembrance that we are holy and we are divine and we are sovereign. You did choose an extremely broken world. Things happen one step at a time, even if those steps are quantum leaps. There's actually nowhere to get to except for more love. And so may your love change this world forever and become your own legacy that you leave behind.
Kaia Ra, welcome on Just Tap In. What are you most excited about right now in your life?
In my life? Oh my God, what a huge question. Well, I'm really excited about, oh my God, there's so much changing, I think, for everyone on the planet simultaneously. I think we're making a massive shift with Pluto and Aquarius. I think the darkness is so oppressive that the light has never been brighter. I feel as though this is a time of enormous creativity and courage. And I find myself being caught up in that collective wave and collective awakening in my personal life. I've been doubling down on my commitment to the Sophia Code movement. We've just moved my entire business over to the foundation, our 501c3 nonprofit organization. I got a new dog and she's the light of my life. Her name's Lucky. I've been studying Bitcoin. I've been returning to my creative process with writing and art. And I think one of the most exciting things for me personally is settling more into myself as a human being amidst so much service and recommitting to my own heart and being available more for myself than ever before, even as I am called to greater and greater levels of service, like finding that balance. That daily internal balance. I find that really exciting because there's always something new to find out about yourself and the journey of that commitment. So I don't know, is that helpful?
If it excites you, that's all that matters. And you mentioned this golden age that we're headed into. You call it the golden age of miracles through the Sophia Code. And in that, embedded in that, there's a lot of different prophecies that we've heard throughout the ages. One that really stands out right now is the return of what you call the ancient ones that are returning in the form of little children. And what are you seeing now with the younger generation stepping in and this return of whatever the ancient ones are? Why are they coming back on Earth right now?
Well, the Sophia Dragon Tribe speak extensively about how important it is for each of us to remember how many masters are incarnated on the planet at this time. Excuse me. Because this is an extraordinary angelic mission that we're all sharing in together. We can't do it individually. The age of Pisces is over. The age of the lone guru is over. And this is the age of Aquarius. This is the age of, they call it the age of miracles because so many spiritual masters are incarnating at this time on the planet, whether they are aware of themselves as masters or not, because we're here to create a great collective, unified field in our consciousness. And I think a lot of the younger generations, and I know there was a cross-section of the population that came in my generation as well as the generation before me, although it wasn't such a high amount of awakened individuals that stepped in at that time. Like, there's been waves of this going on for the past 60, 70 years to get ready for the great collective awakening. And that requires many masters working together as one. In the Sophia Code, we call that working together as in Sophia Christ consciousness or Buddhic consciousness, where we recognize that we're all powerful, we're all sovereign, we're all equal, and therefore we don't have to be in competition with one another. We can lay down patriarchal hierarchy and really step into divine feminine principles of diplomacy and working together as a team.
It was so interesting because just a couple of weeks ago, we were having a chat with our friend Matias De Stefano, and we were talking about everything that happened throughout that solar eclipse that just happened in April. And what he said, and I've heard you say this too, so it was a big overlap, that right now humanity is giving birth to a whole new game. It's almost like we've been playing the same game for eons since the dawn of humanity, and now is a turning point that a new game is being birthed. I would love to know from your insights, your perspective, what are the rules of this new game? What is the field of play that we're heading into?
The choice of no choice, which is when you come into alignment with your higher self, embodying your higher self, you have an overwhelming desire to follow divine will, which seeks to prosper all, which seeks to awaken all. And which divine will, which seeks to invoke everyone into their highest potential. So everyone has a piece of the puzzle for humanity's awakening. And when you come into contact with your higher self and you learn how to operate your consciousness through the perspective of your higher self, you over time become filled with a desire to only live in alignment with divine will, to only live through the consciousness of your higher self, which then allows for you to experience your greatest potential and allows for you to make the most significant impact on the lives of others. And because you're so interested in what you're up to through the consciousness of your higher self, old addictions, old habits, old paradigm ways of thinking actually kind of easily fall away. You don't even need to try so hard to fix yourself because you're so busy being a creator. You're so busy coming into alignment with this divine consciousness that's guiding us all. Like, that's really what spirituality is. It's like, can you come into alignment with what's already perfect inside of you? Can you come into alignment with the divine intelligence that's already guiding us from within and all around us? And from that place, we discover that goodness will guide us and that there's far less rules than we realize. We're unlimited sovereign creators. And when you're focused on wanting to be a part of God's plan, whatever you call God, whatever you call goodness, whatever you call sacred, you'll realize that your access to greater abundance, your access to genius creativity, your access to the co-creators you want to collaborate with in this lifetime, it comes much easier, and it comes in divine timing and divine alignment that makes you want to walk away from all other ways of living that you've previously maybe put yourself through. And so I think that is a bit of the new paradigm, is this both individual and collective magic that comes from tuning in to your intuition, choosing your higher self embodiment, choosing to follow this divine intelligence that's guiding us all, and how that perfectly orchestrates your highest timeline for this life.
Mm.
And if we were all living from that perspective, we would be living in a liberated world.
Sovereign
It's very
beings.
simple.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm feeling into Mother Mary right now, just because the fact that throughout, the human past, we have seen the rise of mystery schools around the planet, and now we're getting the chance to see modern mystery schools in the form of what you're doing and sort of making it cooler in a way. But what I'm really tuning into right now is that in these mystery schools, they would learn about universal laws, they would learn about alchemy, they would learn about different things. And from what I understand, one of the main universal laws of this universe is free will. And free will is very tied to that sovereignty. And we've been also living as a slave race for so many years as a collective species. So in this new game, what does free will and destiny have to do with anything? Because Mother Mary, she talks a lot about destiny in her key code. So where do you see those two balancing with each other?
So destiny is, Mother Mary teaches in the Sophia Code that destiny is a promise you made to yourself. So it's the promise that you made before you ever came here of what you would achieve, what you would embody, what you would fulfill in your divine purpose. Your soul decided that before you arrived here. And so when you are walking through your spiritual awakening and you choose to integrate that spiritual awakening as a daily practice, what you're learning how to do is to keep saying yes to the divine will of your higher self, or to God, whatever words feel right for you. Not you, Emilio, but to everyone listening. It's like the divine goes by many names, and you could call it your soul, you could call it your oversoul, you could call it your higher self, you could call it your direct connection to source or God. Whatever you call it, you made some pretty big agreements with that connection of what you were going to show up to. And so I believe over time, our free will dissolves into merging with the divine will of our higher self. And that free will choice is choosing to live in alignment with the divinity within you. And that's what allows you to fulfill your destiny. It's not by going into the grocery store of life and just choosing every single option on the shelf. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to live as the masters live, you learn how to make the most intuitive, aligned decisions where you know exactly what you're reaching for, because what you're reaching for in your next decision is a quantum leap. It's like it turns every next step into a quantum leap that allows for you to really fulfill your destiny and your divine purpose, and on an accelerated timeline.
I'm curious to know how the archetype of the rising phoenix has shown up consistently in your life, and how you're working with that phoenix right now, and how it's evolved over the years.
Yeah, the Phoenix child is an archetype in the Sophia Code. It's very dear to my heart. It's the part of our divine nature. So in the Sophia Code, we talk about how every soul is divine, and our human experience is a manifestation of our divine consciousness here on earth. And no matter what you have experienced in life, no matter what you have survived, no matter what challenges you have faced, no matter what experiences of abuse or shame that you have had to walk through in this lifetime, because your soul is divine, it is invincible. And it can never be harmed. Like your divinity can never be taken away from you, no matter what anyone has done to you, or no matter what you have experienced in your human journey. And so this Phoenix child, this rising Phoenix archetype, represents the part of your soul that is always innocent, always pure, always holy, divine, and invincible. And it's the part of you that has saved you or has gotten you through those really intense challenges in your life, that shines like the light within you, waiting for you to remember that part of you was always intact and could never be stolen away from you. So For me, that's been, as a survivor, that's been one of the greatest guiding lights for myself, was this connection to this part of me that could never be broken no matter what happened to me. It became like almost like a biofeedback for me of what was real, even though for many years life was a nightmare. That God is real, no matter what nightmare you're living through. That purity that is your soul, that purity that is the phoenix within you, that can be your touchstone to come back to what's real, no matter how bad you might feel, no matter what you're healing through.
In the introduction of the Sophia Code, you wrote that even though your heart was broken, your channel was pure, and that only the higher self can heal us. So I know for a lot of people how they've also gone through experiences, heartbreak, and sometimes we are prone to just close up our channel. How do you maintain an open channel? In your sense, you were opening up and connecting with ascended masters, other beings. That takes a lot of strength and courage. How were you able to sustain that?
Well, what I survived was so extreme that my connection with them is, I feel, what kept me alive, both in their guidance and how they would continue to keep positioning me to stay alive in my connection with them. But, just to speak in general, I'm going to say something, and I hope it's helpful. I can feel the people out there that this might be helpful. But it's not going to be easy to hear. The presence of God is there when you're being abused. Your guardian angels and your spiritual guides are there when those horrible things have happened to you. And when, someone new to a concept like that might say, well, why didn't they stop it from happening? How could God allow this to happen? How could that which created me, my soul, allow this to happen? Well, it's interesting that you started this conversation with, mastery, Emilio, because our souls are so powerful. Our souls are so divine and invincible. We can actually choose to incarnate into this world and experience these horrific things, and turn those experiences into the medicine of our divine purpose, into the message of our divine purpose. We can transform the pain and alchemize it like the phoenix rising up from the flames and the ashes, and our connection to our spiritual guides and our angels and to whatever we call God or source is the presence that compassionately held us and witnessed us through what we were surviving. And then it was the strength and the light and the divine love that lifted us up and got us our feet onto the healing path of recovery and empowerment. And I don't know why I didn't blame God. There was plenty of moments where I certainly could. But I always just felt how much the light of God saved me again and again, and how much these guides were constantly helping me put myself back together. And it meant so much to me that they cared that much about me that I wanted to share that with the whole world, that we all have angelic guides and spiritual guides, and whatever you call the Holy Spirit or Christ or Buddha or God deeply cares about you and what you decided to show up and experience in this life so that you could make a great impact and help others. We're all here to help one another. We're not here to fix one another. We're all here to support and mirror to one another how powerful we are, how unlimited we are, how much we do have the capacity to heal and overcome and to support one another's greatest empowerment. Now, when I say this, it does not in any way condone the evil acts and abusive acts of others, because all of those acts do deserve justice and truth and exposure. But through the eyes of what we call Buddha or Christ consciousness, we can see the divine plan unfolding, that we as spiritual souls, as masters of light, as light workers, we incarnated into this war zone to shine a great light through our human journey and through being willing to experience these things and show others that we can overcome them. And I could never have overcome what I've overcome without my spiritual guides, without the presence of God and Divine Mother, Divine Father, whatever you call God. And so I want to share that you are not alone. Whoever's listening right now, you are not alone when those things happened. You are being supported to survive through them and to eventually become a very powerful person in your own right.
When I began to explore this notion that we chose many of these experiences that we're living right now, we chose this body, we chose our family, we chose certain event points in our life that we were going to experience, it was a big shock for me. But at the same time, there was a cellular activation that it kind of, I don't want to use the word clicked because it's a very like engineering term, but it was like a flood of just remembrance that came over me. Even though I do know that there are some people that remembered exactly that crafting their life plan. Was that something that you were able to understand later on in life, that you chose to be here to birth this sacred text in the world and endure what you had to endure when you were a kid?
Yes, it's come in pieces. When I was a child, I would have visions of what I'm living now, of speaking to many people. I would have experiences with the Ascended Masters where they were telling me things that they shared that I would share with others in the future when I was a child. And then later in life, when I really started to explore parallel lives as well as life between life work, I saw it. I saw the whole thing. I saw all my agreements. I saw meeting with the High Council. I saw myself weeping before coming into this world, knowing that I was taking a huge risk and that the price was going to be so high, and that there would be probabilities of, I think the contract that I originally signed up for was less years of human trafficking. And when you drop down into a matrix game board, like especially this one, like variables can change suddenly. What you signed up for can actually change it. Anything can happen in a war zone. And once your boots on the ground, like the variables of the game can change suddenly. And so what I experienced went on much longer than I anticipated before I got here. So it's like part of that journey is learning. It's the biggest shift that you got to go through is that it's okay to grieve what you signed up for. It's okay to have a lot of hard feelings about what you signed up for, just because your soul thought it was super cool to come into this world, which is being torn apart by an interstellar war. Just because that was a cool idea, up in heaven, that doesn't mean it feels the same way when your boots on the ground here on Earth. It's extremely painful. It can take years to heal from even decades to heal from what some of us have signed up for. To expose what's really happening on this planet. And what I love to teach about it in the Sophia Code Mystery School is like, you're allowed to have all of your feelings about what you signed up for. Do not bypass the emotional spectrum and honoring what you survived. Like, grieve it, be upset about it, be angry about it. Take the time to let yourself be fully human about what your divinity said you were capable of. Because the human body, the human heart, and the mind, it needs a very genuine integration process. And what I found was that I had a lot of forgiveness work to do with myself for saying yes, not just to how many things I said yes to in this lifetime, but I trained for many lifetimes to get ready for this lifetime. So I've experienced some very serious being taken out, shall we say, in other lifetimes, leading on the front lines of consciousness in other lifetimes to get ready for this lifetime. Fortunately, this is a different lifetime. It has a different ending to the story. Thank God. But, I think many of us have paid very high prices throughout our incarnations here on Earth to prepare for humanity's collective awakening. And it's okay to have all of your feelings about it. I think it's actually a very important part of the process.
Do you have any insight as to why you chose to be a woman in this particular lifetime? It almost seems like we're going through a renaissance of the feminine. Do you know why you chose to be a woman?
That's so funny because I was a man for so many lifetimes. I love that you asked me that question. I was like an Asian dude for many lifetimes.
That's the best. That's the best.
Yeah.
I want one of those.
I loved martial arts. I'm here for the Divine Feminine movement. I mean, straight up, like the Divine Feminine. If you look at every single lineage represented in the Sophia Code, Divine Feminine has been persecuted for not just centuries, like thousands of years. There's been so many resets on the planet. Humanity doesn't have any idea how old it is or what version of human body DNA we're living in. It's like software. It's just how many resets have happened. Humanity is so traumatized. It's so sad. And the Divine Feminine has been so incredibly persecuted because it is the principle of God consciousness that mirrors back to humanity the truth of its divine nature, the truth of its sovereignty. It's not to say it does not in any way make it more or less than the divine masculine. That's just part of what the Divine Feminine principle does, is as its mirror work. And so, we've got a Divine Feminine movement happening on the planet right now, which is going to heal up our relationship with these principles of Divine Feminine consciousness within us. So then we can actually start to explore what true Divine Masculine principles of God consciousness are also within us. Right now, there's such a wounded context about what both feminine and masculine mean on the planet. It's so needed at this time. And I'm hearing my higher self say, I actually chose a female body. I know this is going to sound weird, but my higher self chose it because it knew it could survive. There's something about the female body that has a way of surviving abuse and being able to remain psychologically intact that's fascinating to witness through the eyes of the soul. And so for whatever reason, this body was what was going to be able to physically and psychologically survive. And it was also the right vessel for a Divine Feminine movement. If I was a dude here for the Divine Feminine movement, that'd be cool, but I don't know. I think it's worked.
I'm here. Yeah, I'll support.
I think this worked out well for this go around. Yeah.
Well, it's so interesting because everywhere you look now, at least for me, I'm seeing little drops hidden in plain sight of the Divine Feminine rising. And you can even look at Hollywood. You look at the Marvel movies coming out now with these women superheroes really taking the lead in the Marvel comics, the cinematic universe. Also, for someone that doesn't view everything as spiritual, I'm going to say something that doesn't sound very spiritual, but I watch religiously to ground myself after doing a podcast like this. I watched Too Hot to Handle.
All right.
And even in Too Hot to Handle, you see that they're doing womb healing ceremonies in those shows to help the women on the show. And that is probably definitely out of my scope in this lifetime, but what does the role of healing the womb have to do with this divine feminine movement?
Oh my gosh. It's challenging to even articulate how much womb healing could impact the future of humanity, because it's so deep. I feel this inner silence as soon as you ask that question. The physical womb is, it's but a energetic, it's a physical container that represents the soul's energetic womb space, which we all have. We talk about this in the Sophia Code. Through the Golden Dragon Light Body, we all get to experience the heart womb that the Sophia Dragons are teaching us about. And this concept that we are all birthers, not just creators, but we actually birth reality into existence as fractals of God consciousness. And so the womb is that origin point, right? It represents where the light arises out of the great nothing, the womb of no thing, as we talk about in the Sophia Code. And it's a universal healing for humanity to connect with this concept of womb healing, but also for the feminine and also for women. This reclaiming of the womb space. I feel like I'm looking for the right words. There's something coming from the collective. There's like all these tears. There's all this grief. There's all this sadness that women's womb spaces have been raped for thousands of years. And their babies taken from them, not just their physical babies, but the creations of their womb spaces. And how, if we can learn how to honor this holiest of temple within women, we'll be able to start to honor this holiest of temple within each of us. Like, we'll start to remember how to honor the sacred, how to honor life again. Like the fact that this womb space is created to actually build and construct another human being. Like, what is more sacred than that? What is more holy? What is more miraculous than that? And that's the very thing that a lot of the controllers in this matrix are, they've already been working for centuries on taking even that away from us, with cloning and so much genetic engineering. And if we can start there and allow the feminine to grieve what has been stolen and raped for centuries, we're going to start healing our point of origin, because we all come from the womb. What would happen if we became healed in relationship to our original point of origin, both with mother, but also like, where does that go? To divine mother. And the Sophia Code talks about how the greatest wound that humanity is walking around is thinking that it's separate from divine mother. Not divine father, actually divine mother. Because all of creation comes out of that primordial womb space. And many ancient cultures spoke about how even the divine masculine emerges out of the divine feminine. And this isn't a conversation about making one ideology right or wrong. It's just about like, let's just think in terms of points of origin. If you want to have a true miraculous reset and awakening, we got to go back to our points of origin and heal our relationship from there, so we can start building a foundation based on truth, instead of our ideas about truth.
It's what we all have in common, right? We all came from the same place, and then we've seen in society all these institutions or structures that try to divide us once we're here, yes, not knowing that we are all connected to the one source, the divine mother. in your experience, I just saw we're 3333. In your experience, what are these qualities of the Divine Mother? How have you experienced her?
Well, Divine Mother, first and foremost, is the presence of unconditional love. She is the presence of absolute peace. She is both perfect stillness and constant creativity. She is creative genius. She is absolute generosity. Everything that we receive, everything that we live, everything that we ingest comes from her consciousness, which is continually sustaining us. And when you connect with the Divine Mother, you feel how extraordinary it is that she wanted to become you. Like, she created your soul out of her essence. And there's no greater gift than to realize that everything you are comes out of her. And when you make that correlation, when you feel it, when you witness it, through the perspective of your soul, you realize that there is nothing that you cannot do. There's nothing that you cannot accomplish, that you can answer any higher calling, because you realize that it is she within you that can answer the call through you. And that she seeks for us to be filled with grace and to honor life through beauty, through the what we call the beauty way, where we are creating as an offering back to life, back to the divinity within each and every one of us. That we can be both respectful and firm, that we can have clear boundaries, and that will actually allow us to exponentially expand. Like, Divine Mother is so multi-dimensional. And when you come into communion with her, you're coming into communion with all that is. And from that space, you realize that her protection is everywhere, and that you are walking in this world with so much support and so much creative genius that's bursting throughout every cell of your body. There's nothing to see but how powerful you are. That's what it's like to connect with Divine Mother. And it's from that space that no matter what you've survived, you can move from victimhood into sovereign creatorhood. You can grieve as a powerful soul of light. You don't have to take on the shame of this world, even though you came here to help transmute it.
And I'm getting Green Tara in real quick because she says that your planet was birthed within the heart womb of a Sophia dragon. So now we're talking about wombs, we're talking about the heart, we're talking about dragons. Where do they all connect, and what does that have to do with the creation of this beautiful Gaia being that we're living upon?
Well, you have some great questions, Emilio. So when you come into the consciousness of Divine Mother, you realize that she is both that nothingness, the void, the black womb of, that goes on infinitely, as well as that eternal light that arises as an immaculate conception out of that nothingness, out of the void. But that is what God is, or whatever you call the presence of source. That's the original consciousness that creates all that is. And from that consciousness, arise as what we call original creator species that are a part of the physical manifestations of God's thoughts. And the Sophia dragons are a part of this angelic order called the seraphim that serve at the throne of this consciousness. Throne being, how do we say, like a metaphysical or symbolic term of grace, like at that bridge point between the formless to the form, their angelic orders serve the consciousness of God, whatever we call God. And so these seraphim are celestial dragon mothers that they're not from this earth. They're not connected to any alien species. They're not reptilians. They are these holy creatures, fiery creatures of God, as spoken about in ancient texts. And when I met them, I was like, wow, okay, there are dragons that serve Divine Mother. Holy cow. What? Okay. All right. This is going to be a lot to share and with the world. And so as I got to know them, they shared with me this extraordinary technology that their hearts and their wombs are one. And in this like celestial metaphysical technology of their enormous bodies that are inconceivable to understand in size and mass, they have the capacity to dream into existence Divine Mother's inspiration for a new species or a new planet through sovereignty. And so a species or a planet or even a galaxy can be born through these seraphim, and that planet or that species might even never know that they were born through this Dragon Mother, because it's all done through sovereignty. It's all done through free will. It's all that holographic birthing. She who births sovereign creators. That's what the Sophia Dragon's title is in the Sophia Code. So whatever planet, whatever species are coming out of these seraphim are what Divine Mother seeks to create as sovereign expressions of her grace. And these seraphim, these Sophia dragons, will tend to their creations, but from a distance, so as to not become overly involved, so that their species can grow in their own sovereignty and have their own learning curve. And Mother Earth was one such creation, according to Divine Mother Sophia's perspective in the Sophia Code.
Just last December, I had the opportunity to travel to Egypt with a group. We were led by Robert Grant, our mutual friend, Danica Patrick was there. It was so interesting because we were inside of the King's Chamber, and Robert started showing us that long ago, etched into the walls of the King's Chamber, there were figures of the bull, the cow. And he even showed us that there were two dragons that were making the form of DNA strips within I think it's the east wall in the King's Chamber, if I'm not wrong. And they go into the throat chakra of Orion. And I've heard you talk a lot about how the throat is very related and how this crystalline DNA that we're activating also represented by the dragons intertwining in this form. So what is going on with humanity around our DNA structure, our divine genome, you call it?
Yeah, so the divine genome is different from your biological DNA.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as I know you're very aware from all of your explorations and research, the current DNA of humanity has been tampered with significantly. At this point, whatever version of human that this is, it's a slave species, bred to be a slave species, bred to be significantly dumbed down from our original DNA. And so the good news is that in the Sophia Code, the Divine Mother shares with us that when she gave birth to each of our souls, that we were given every divine principle of God consciousness that she has, that she is, as a part of our soul. What makes each of us a unique soul is that those divine principles were rearranged into a key code sequence that's entirely unique to your soul. So we all have the same divine principles of God consciousness. We're all equally sovereign, but we're all unique in how Divine Mother arranged those sequences. And your soul, whenever it incarnates, whether it's on Earth or in a different planetary system, those divine principles crystallize on a metaphysical level in the subatomic universe of your DNA, whatever DNA you're inhabiting, human or otherwise. And it's waiting for you to activate it. So you could think about these divine principles crystallizing into divine chromosomes. We call them crystalline chromosomes that make up the motherboard of the divine genome. And when you walk through the initiations of the Sophia Code, what happens is you are saying yes to your soul flipping on the light switches of that motherboard in the subatomic universe of your DNA, which then allows for your higher self to build bridges of conscious light between the divine genome to your biological DNA, to your carbon-based DNA, and every strand of your DNA. And so what happens over time as you integrate and you continue to mentor with these ascended masters, continue to choose to embody your higher self-consciousness, commune with your source, these bridges of light become stronger and stronger. What does that mean? Well, everything travels on light. So you can download an ever-increasing amount of your soul's consciousness into your human body once you activate the divine genome. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means that the divine consciousness of your soul can start to transform your biological DNA, as well as your emotional bodies. We have all these different spiritual, metaphysical light bodies that interface with the physical body, such as your emotional body, your mental body, but all these other spiritual causal bodies and etheric bodies and your meridians and your major chakra systems. And what happens is that once that divine genome is fully activated, you're giving your body a fighting chance to actually start to transform your physical body into the ascended light body you deserve to experience here on the physical earth plane. And it doesn't happen overnight. This is something that you have to consciously choose to keep focusing upon and keep allowing the divine genome to change you, to transform you. So that's why I birthed the Sophia Code Mystery School with all of the curriculums we have, because you need to mentor with the Ascended Masters. Why? Because they did this process themselves. Why would you want to, you need a role model, right? You need a mentor. You need a guide as to what it means to stay in a place of focus upon the truth of who you are in a world devoted to lying to you about what you are and attempting to keep you from what you really are. And so, when you activate the divine genome, you're flipping on the light switches within, when you close your eyes, when you really travel into a single cell within your body, and then you travel through your mind's eye into your very DNA, and then you travel into the electrons, travel beyond that, travel into the deep space, the void, the black hole of your own soul. And that is where you will start, where you can feel your consciousness magnetized to the divine genome, which will appear to you on the inner planes, and you will see it shining. I feel like all the crystalline chromosomes shining with the light of God within you. And through those initiations, to watch those bridges of light connecting to your physical DNA, and then to start to feel how your body responds, how you emotionally respond, how you start to make different decisions based on the amount of light flowing through your body. That's a big deal. And it's fascinating and it's fun. And then all of a sudden life becomes a creative laboratory. What can my divine genome do next within me?
I know you said that the only way to channel this high level information is through ceremony. And it was actually Saint Germain that told you to head up to Mount Shasta and do some stuff over there, essentially. So you mentioned that you met the High Council. We've sprinkled throughout the conversation some of these ascended masters like Green Tara, Mother Mary. And in order to activate this divine genome, we're working now with the Sophia Dragon Tribe that you met, that you worked with, that you channeled. So I'd love if you could walk us through that process of meeting the tribe, what it was like, and really the process of bringing through that information that now we're really starting to work with on a mass level, that this book is really picking up now, especially after the CV in 2020.
Yes. Yeah, it was amazing. We had an explosive growth during the pandemic. It was, that was intense. That was really intense. You know, wanting to reach so many people with this message and making that happen. And now, yeah, we're definitely building momentum as a movement. Okay, so Saint Germain. Yes, he asked me to rent a house up in Mount Shasta for a couple of months. And I was like, all right. And at the time, I mean, man, this was a stretch for me to manifest that. I was really in my very dark healing journey at that point in my life. And I made it happen. Well, they made it happen with me. And he had told me that there was a book coming, and I thought it was going to be a book about healing from rape. And because I was so in that part of my journey, and so I went up there. And he didn't, it was weird. It was like he didn't disagree with it, but he didn't elaborate anything more about it. He was just like, get up there and start writing and see what happens. And I was like, okay. So I built all these altars once I got to the house. I did all this grid work on the land. I even made like grid work with snow. Like I built all these interesting sculptures in the backyard as different grid points. And like
some Reiki powered snowman out here.
I mean, I got into it. It was just like, okay, I don't know what's about to happen, but I could feel something was coming. And this house was on the side of the mountain, and I almost felt like nesting, like before someone's going to give birth to a baby, like just get everything in the house ready. But I didn't know what I was getting ready for. I had no idea. What I did do is I did the same thing every day, as I share in the preface of the Sophia Code. I would build a fire. I would make meals at the same time of day. I would go to the store at the same time of day. It was weird. Like I was given the instruction that everything always had to be the same, like chop wood, carry water.
That's discipline. Yeah.
Yeah. It was interesting. And then, but that was the perfect setup for me to realize what was happening when it happened. And so I would work on my computer at the same time every day. I would channel, and I was working away on all of this content that was coming through about how humanity could heal from what we call collective rape consciousness, because this world is actually run through collective rape consciousness. So it was some great downloads coming through. And I thought, okay, I'm on my way. And then one night I finished dinner and sat down on my couch, did the same thing I always do, like stoke the fire, whatever, sat down at the altar, and physical reality just disappeared. Now, mind you, I wasn't taking medicine. I wasn't doing medicine ceremonies. There was no... And I think that's what was so absolutely shocking I was in such like a truly sober place for days on end, just doing the same thing: make dinner, get up, shovel snow, make sure you drink enough water, make the meals, sit at the computer, listen to Saint Germain. I mean, I was putting myself through Ascended Master Boot Camp. It was, of my own volition. And so when I sat down on the couch with the laptop and I started to notice that these beams of very thick, Tahoe house, ski house style of a house, the thick beams, the wood walls, the heavy ceiling was vibrating. I thought, are we having an earthquake? And then I was looking at the molecular structure of the wood, and I was like, oh my God, okay, there's atoms happening right now. Wow, where are the walls going? And then it was gone. I could see my legs, I could see the computer, but I was sitting in the light, and the light smelled like lightning. Mm-hmm. That smell during a storm when lightning strikes, it's got that almost like sulfury, kind of weird, intense smell with the water. That's what the light smelled like. Mm-hmm. And I saw like rippling white dragon scales, and then I heard this voice booming in the light, and she said, I am Sophia, the one divine mother creatrix of all life. Are you listening to me? And it was so loud, I was almost like hunched over because it was so loud. It was intolerable. And I somehow squeaked out a mousy question of like the Greek goddess of wisdom. Like, what's happening to me right now? This is not my normal channeling experience. And she was like, no, I am the one divine mother of all life. Are you listening to me? And I was like, yes, I am. You have all of my attention. Just please turn down the lights a little bit and the volume, because this is unbearable. And that's when the pure white light had tinges of gold, and then iridescent gold, and then the ascended masters all descended out of the light, and there were thousands of them. And then there were the two Sophia dragons in the center of the light, and that's when I met the High Council in that living room that no longer was there. But I could see my laptop, and my higher self was like, you better type or you're never going to believe this actually happened on the other side of this.
Have you ever
unfortunately
entertained the thought that maybe did you bilocate to another realm, or where did you go?
I think the realm came to me. I mean, that's what can happen on a holy site like Mount Shasta. I mean, Shasta is... I would almost venture to say, like, Shasta is almost dangerous. It's so multidimensional. It's like a galactic space center station. Like, it's so crazy, the stories that come, the legends that come out of that.
What is Telos?
Telos is real. I've definitely interacted with Telos. Telos is an ascended city inside the mountain. They were part of Lemuria, and then they went inside the mountain during one of the great resets, and they're extremely special beings. They actually helped me ground the transmission of the Sophia Dragon Tribe because it was such a high frequency. It was I could barely function when I first met them. It was just way too much. And actually, in that course of the conversation of them giving me the commission to write the Sophia Code, sorry, there was just something coming through. Yeah, their transmission is extremely galactic. And what happens with Telos is they help ground that galactic transmission right into the core of the earth. And so meeting the Sophia Dragon Tribe, receiving that commission at that time, after it happened, I kind of said to them, hey, don't call me, I'll call you. like once it was over. Because I knew that my body and my mind, I wasn't physically ready to actually sustain that level of contact enough to write the book that they had asked me to write. And I said, I'm going to go get ready. I'm going to go train my body. I'm going to get strong. I'm going to cleanse. I'm going to take my meditation practice to a whole nother level, my writing practice to a whole nother level. And that's what I did. I got very serious about getting ready to channel them. And so it took me about 2 years to get to that place. And then when they came in and they were like, you're ready. And I was like, are you sure? They're like, no, you're ready. Now let's go. Because there was so many years it took to actually channel it. But the final year of completion before I published the Sophia Code, I moved back to Shasta and had a lot of interaction with the beings of Telos within the mountain. Not inside the mountain. I would interact with them on the mountain.
What is their hope for humanity?
Oh, they're a very elegant, enlightened species. Their intention is to be ready for when we're ready to ascend. They're going to hold the bar very high. They're not interested in lowering their bar, or they'll be ready when we're ready. Like, they're ready to make contact when we're finally grown up enough to understand the gift of what it means to come into contact with such awakened beings that live on the planet.
Yeah.
Like, they're not for kindergarten, it's not kindergarten 101 spirituality. It's just like, are you kidding me? These beings are like beaming pure light, sparkling.
But they used to be
eyes.
Humans during Lemurian times.
I don't know if I would call it human. I think we have a very narrow scope of what it means to be incarnated on this planet. Like, there's many times on this planet where being human wasn't the only option. It still isn't. So I would say they're humanoid, but I wouldn't say they're human.
Yeah.
They're very beautiful. They're gorgeous.
Yeah, I feel like we could go off on a tangent with that one, but to bring it back to the Sophia Dragon Tribe.
Yeah.
This took you 7 years to write this book, and it took every fiber of your DNA, your genome to write this. But essentially, there were 8 mentors laid out in front of you that said, we're going to work with you. And these are people or ascended masters that lived lifetimes in physical form that many people might know. I mean, we mentioned Mother Mary, Isis, Mary Magdalene. I would love if we could introduce people to each mentor, if we have the time, and really go deep into some of their stories, what they're trying to convey, and really hone in for people specifically. Because I feel like we can resonate with some more than others, just depending on maybe our cultural upbringing or what we've heard in the past. So there's like a soup for everyone with these teachers, and they're all beautiful.
Well, and also your previous life connections to them, right? You could have an aversion to one of them because you actually were quite close to them in another lifetime. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. You have a special connection with Quan Yin.
Oh gosh, Quan Yin, yes. She was my first like true divine feminine connection in this lifetime. Just to feel the invitation to self-compassion that she was offering me, the invitation to self-love, which was impossible at the time that I met her because I was navigating so much self-hatred from what I had survived. She was an invitation to grace that was so gentle and pure. Quan Yin really helps us take important next steps in healing and getting honest about the healing journey, taking our time with the healing journey, making it a priority, discovering the power of self-love, self-compassion, self-forgiveness, and how that really impacts how we can serve others, how we can show up for others. Because if we're taking the time to cultivate self-love, self-compassion, we're going to be far more authentic in how we can be there for others. So yeah, I think that's a really great place to start with Quan Yin.
Yeah,
and she's key code 6 of the Sophia Code.
Yeah, we might go even out of order because depending on who's coming
It's
through
okay.
first, but she represents the third eye.
Yeah.
What about her story resonated with you the most?
Well, for starters, her chapter is probably my favorite chapter in the Sophia Code, because when you read the story of her life, it reads like a movie. And I was so honored to be able to write down her words exactly as she wanted them to be written down about what happened to her, and how she was, her village was overtaken when she was a child, and how she was raped. And her family was also raped and killed, and then the village was burnt to the ground. And so she was knocked out unconscious, and those who had invaded her village didn't know she was still alive, and she managed to escape to the jungle, the rainforest jungle in the mountains. And so we go on this journey with how Quan Yin experienced the darkest levels of shame and suffering about what she had survived, and isolation, and then meeting Mahavatar Babaji, who was her teacher, guru, whatever you want to call it, from other lifetimes, who appeared to her and began the process of helping her not only heal, but empower and spiritually awaken to become the master that we now know Quan Yin to be, as a divine feminine Christ figure in this cosmology. So her story is extremely powerful and has changed the lives of not just women, but even men who have experienced being abused or raped in their own childhood. And I don't know, it was just such an honor to be able to share her story. And of course, there's such a connection there for me with what I survived as well. And there was such a resistance for me to complete that chapter. And yet it was probably one of the greatest healings of my life to complete that chapter, because it was saying yes to my own healing and empowerment as well, as I allowed her words to come through.
She really hones in that lesson of letting go. When you finished writing that chapter, did you let go of anything important to you that was holding you back?
Quan Yin talks about how ashamed she felt that her, because in her culture, you're defined by your family. If you have a family, like to be an orphan would be of the most shame. To be raped would be of the most shame. And so for her to work through releasing shame, to become, the spiritual leader that made such an impact, I think it was a lot of shame that I let go of myself, enough to be seen in releasing the Sophia Code, to take the risk to do that. Mm-hmm.
What's on the other side of rape consciousness?
Christ consciousness.
Mm. Yeah.
Also known as Buddha consciousness. That's the full spectrum, yeah? You got rape, Luciferian consciousness, and then you've got Christ consciousness on the other spectrum.
Where is most of humanity on that spectrum?
Most of humanity is stuck in slavery to rape consciousness, but it doesn't know it. Like, when you are claiming ignorance of what is, that's still being a part of it. Still contributing to it. When you choose to remain asleep and enslaved to that which is enslaving others, that's you're still resonating in that arena. When we call rape sexual abuse, those are two very different things. Sexuality is consensual. Rape is a power dynamic. There's no such thing as sexual abuse unless you want to sexually abuse yourself. That would be a consensual choice that you're making to abuse yourself with sex, maybe through a sex addiction. But rape is rape. It's overpowering another person or like the planet and taking what is not yours. It's a power dynamic. It's not consensual. And so our society is so addicted to hiding from the truth of what's really happening in this world, even through the euphemisms that we use, like pedophilia. No, they're rapists. It's not sexual abuse. It's rape. And so if you want to talk about collective consciousness playing into something and perpetuating it, look at the very words we use to describe the horrors of this world. We can't even call a spade a spade. Christ consciousness, though, is willing to call it as it sees it. It's got nothing to hide. They'll just tell the truth because the truth sets us free, not hiding from it. And that's the difference. Rape consciousness is about hiding and shaming and keeping something hidden in the dark or asleep. And Christ consciousness is about being willing to become so sober that you're willing to look at everything for what it really is.
Yeah, I feel you. And thank you so much for opening up with that. Mm-hmm. Isis, she talks about how sexuality is a pathway to recognizing our own divinity. So that's like opening up the spectrum of using this sacred life force energy in a very different way. So how have you learned from Isis regarding this topic?
Your sexuality is sacred. I mean, that alone, how many people in this generation could heal their lives just thinking that thought? It's sacred. No one's asking you to be a puritanical being. But can you honor that it's sacred? From that space, Isis teaches us how powerful our sexuality is for transforming our consciousness because it is sacred. It's a vehicle. It's a way where we heighten our consciousness and we get to feel so much of ourselves. It's really, ironically, it's really not about someone else. It's really about how much you get to feel the totality of yourself as someone else is feeling the totality of themselves. And then if you have two very awakened beings and they're feeling the totality of their direct connection with God simultaneously, like, talk about Tantra communion. It's so beyond what most people talk about as orgasm, or it's about consciousness and how much you can expand your consciousness and stay in a sustained state of higher consciousness. And then what you can then do with that consciousness, what could you create with it? How could you direct it? How could you heal your body with it? Or what kind of momentum with creativity could you direct that incredible expanded consciousness towards? So just to start with, your sexuality is sacred. Your body is sacred. How would that change your relationship with sex? No one's saying not to have fun, but like, how can you have fun and keep it sacred? How can you actually explore that physical connection is meant to help you expand your consciousness while you remain connected to your body? There's so many people in the spiritual world that are so out of their body. They're so ungrounded. Your sexuality can be used as a practice for being fully embodied while you're in a state of heightened, expanded consciousness, as well as like, how present are you with the person beside you and their consciousness? What does that teach you about being a compassionate witness, being someone who is worshiping the divine in another? But like, it's sad how society treats sexuality. I love where Isis brings us in. our consciousness to discover our unlimited potential there.
Religion is filled with sins, what you should do, what you shouldn't do. And actually, in that activation by Isis, she says, it is actually the separation of sexual energy from the wholeness of life that is the original sin. And then she goes on to clear a bunch of religious beliefs, oaths, vows that we've done in this lifetime and other lifetimes. The one that stood out to me the most, actually, and I had it right here because I feel like it's important. They were all important, but this one like really spoke to me, which was, from within, I summon the exhaustion of proving myself worthy to a God outside of myself for a spiritual reward after death. That was a big one. How do we begin to unpack that?
How extraordinary to be set free that your spiritual reward is already here. What would you do if your spiritual reward was already here? Like, how would that change your perspective on like what you were creating in life? If your divine genome, your divine inheritance, if your actual divinity was your inheritance, and it already existed within you and you could already access it. And there's so many belief systems from the oppressive religious doctrine of Catholicism and Christianity, not mystical Christianity, not the beautiful teachings of the original teachings of Christianity, but the religious doctrines that were designed to enslave humanity, in every way to keep us from what we already are. If you say sexuality is a sin, and that's one of the vehicles to experience expanded consciousness through your actual physical body, like they're cutting you off at the knees. And they're saying your body is a sin. What your body is designed to do is a sin. I mean, you're already losing just for arriving in a human body. That's not empowerment. That's enslavement. And Isis is a pure master in helping us untie the knots of slavery, to step into our sovereignty.
You brought up Tantric communion, and I think the two highest level masters of that were the combo duo, Mary Magdalene and Sananda, Jesus, Yeshua.
Well, everyone sure likes to talk about him that way, yes.
Yeah. Do you see it
There were
differently?
others. No, I'm just saying we get fixated on personalities, and there were many other masters that came before them that were, they're teachers in that, so it's not just about them, but they represent a lineage, that we're very familiar with because of these two personalities now.
Yeah. Yeah, because you mentioned that a lot of truths are being exposed right now, and that also includes big personalities from our history that their stories have been misconceived or with a misperception of what really happened. I feel like out of the 8 mentors, I think Mary Magdalene really had the opportunity through what you channeled to retell her story in a new light for this age of Aquarius. And what do you think were the biggest lessons from that, of the story that she wanted to tell?
Well, I just want to say thank you for recognizing that and speaking to that, because that just really touched my heart. Thank you for saying that.
Thank you.
The revelations, excuse me. I get a little choked up when I talk about Mary Magdalene. She's very dear to my heart. The revelations of Mary Magdalene that you read in the Sophia Code came through in 24 hours. Not the initiation, but all the content that's in the revelation part of her chapter. Part of that was, I was so terrified to channel Mary Magdalene's story because if there was anyone, just like you said, who deserves to have her story told the way it was meant to be told, it's Mags. It's Mary Magdalene. She deserves our love and our respect and our endearment, I think, more than anyone, because of the 2,000 years of defamation that she has suffered. It's God. I get so worked up when I think about the ways that woman's name has been dragged through the mud for centuries. And it's because she was extraordinarily powerful and unlike anyone who's ever walked the earth. She was truly her own unique key code of empowerment for the divine feminine movement, and continues to be so. All of those revelations came through in one night. I sat down by her altar after months of praying to not only get through the Catholic lies about her story, but also a lot of the weird New Age stuff around Mary Magdalene too. And all of the projections that people put on Mary Magdalene, because she inspires so much healing, but it tends to attract a lot of brokenness. And a lot of people that want to project onto Mary Magdalene what they need to say to themselves. And so I feel like I was spending months working through prayer and meditation just to like clear out. I just want you, Mary Magdalene. I just want exactly what you want to say. And so when the night finally arrived at her altar, it was one of the greatest nights of my life, for sure.
You even said it was one of the holiest experiences of your life.
It was, to watch the movie of her. Because when I channeled those stories, it was like walking inside an IMAX movie.
You're seeing everything.
Oh my God. I'm walking with them. I'm talking. I'm just, I'm like a fly on the wall watching all of the details and full IMAX experience. And I'm just writing as fast as I can. And then of course going back to make sure there's a rewriting process as well to make sure I'm getting all the details. Oh, what about this? What about that? Then going back and watching the movie again of what she showed me. And just, there was a lot to take in. And there's such a golden diamond light energy when you connect with her, when you look at her, when you're in her presence. It's so, she is so powerful, but so humble, but it's so humbling to stand in her presence and to hear her story and to feel the grace of her strength and the elegance of her embodiment. I get really excited talking about her. I hope I didn't get too off track with your question.
Not at all. We did an episode recently with a friend, Hella Weston. She was with us in Egypt, and she highlighted in that episode that while we were there, she started seeing Sekhmet and this high order of Magdalenes inside of the pyramids, and while we were walking around, and she started connecting a lot. And this actually wasn't in the episode, but off camera, off recording, she told me that I was surrounded by an order of Magdalenes, and that really touched me. Like as soon as she said that, like I felt it. And like Mary Magdalene, it goes way beyond, because she left a lineage of these Magdalenes. And what does it mean to have that title? And I'm really curious about the Magdalenes too.
Yeah, so in the Sophia Code, we talk about the Order of Magdalena and how, although we know Mary Magdalene as this larger-than-life figure embodying these Magdalene mysteries, like the Magdalene is a title. It's a title of being a high priestess that is highly trained in the oracular arts with specific ancient mystery school training. And at least for when she was walking the earth, that's a more localized understanding of the Order of Magdalene. Like Mother Mary was a Magdalene, Grandmother Anna was a Magdalene. All of the high priestesses at Mount Carmel, they were Magdalenes as well. But what is a Magdalene in terms of the Order of Magdalena across centuries of time? These are souls that have activated angelic principles within their divine genome, practiced embodying them on the earth plane or in other planetary systems, where they go in and successfully accomplish angelic missions in the darkest times on a planet or for a population. So for Mary Magdalene and for Jesus and Mother Mary to come in at that time on the planet, such an extreme darkness on the planet was reigning at that time, and they brought so much of the Christ light, so much of these angelic principles of devotion to divine service and to the awakening of humanity. Magdalens are those kind of souls that make those kind of choices to incarnate at the darkest of times. They bring the greatest light.
Would you say that Mary Magdalene acted a little bit like a sugar mama to Jesus?
Certainly. She was certainly one of the, if not the richest woman of her time with her people. I believe that one of the principles of the Divine Feminine is overflowing prosperity and abundance. So it would be quite harmonious for Mary Magdalene to have wanted to sponsor and elevate not just Jesus's teachings, but their co-creative ministry. Yeah.
What were they co-creating?
They were co-creating that movement together, as we share in the Sophia Code. They would teach side by side in the fields and in full lotus posture. And they would, in the Sophia Code shares how individuals would line up both before Mary Magdalene and Jesus to receive healing, to receive empowerments, to receive transmissions, and that they were constantly telepathically connected and working together as one in their ministry. Yeah, the fact that the Bible talks about her being demonically possessed is a complete and total lie. They were exorcising people side by side together as a team. It's actually blasphemous what the Catholic Church has said about her. To be more on point.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. And what was Mother Mary's role during that time?
The great director of the movie. I mean, she was I mean, Mother Mary is a mother for this world. So of course she would give birth to both a son and a spiritual daughter that could embody this level of Christ consciousness in the world. She was a Christed being herself. So she held an entire community together as a spiritual mother, just as her mother did before her. She was an extraordinary orator, oracular activist. Mother Mary would speak and you could hear a pin drop in the room because her words would send shivers through everybody's body. She was a high priestess of Hathor. That's how she conceived Jesus, through light streaming and light DNA weaving. That was truly an immaculate conception.
Was she trained to be able to do that before?
Yes. But it was so rare at that time to actually have a high priestess of Hathor that could still perform that miracle, that kind of a miracle. She was extraordinarily exceptional and a true incarnation of the Divine Mother. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
In the Sophia Code, it says that she's trained in the high art of manifestation.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, any Hathor is. You're a Hathor. Physical reality is just your playground. So
that's what I was going to say. Hathor liked to be in many places at the same time.
Yeah. And that was part of her ministry, was showing us that, emptiness is form and form is emptiness. It's extremely malleable. It's extremely fluid. It's just our hardened perception of what form is that keeps us fixated on its density. The Hathors really like to play with that and help us stay nimble in our curiosity and delight about being alive and our potential to create and form beyond what we're allowed to think of ourselves as, or even our bodies. You know, our bodies are designed to shapeshift. Like, it's not some magical woo-woo thing. Like, we're very malleable, and Hathor's presence helps us loosen up on our fears, or even the terror that comes from living that free, breaking all the rules of physical reality that aren't actually really there. God isn't like, you better believe in physical reality or else. Like, that's the church, or that's a government. That's not God.
Yeah. I mean, there's
God's like, go forth and be a sovereign creator. Enjoy.
Huh.
I hope you enjoy it.
Even today, there's accounts of yogic masters that have mastered the art of bilocation, meaning that they're accessing quantum points where they can burst off their consciousness into different aspects, not only their consciousness, but their physical vehicle as well. How has Hathor described the process of that? Because she gets really deep into the science about the electrons. In that book, I was like, whoa, I'm going to need to take a break on this chapter.
You and me both. That was a hard chapter for me to channel. I was like, whoa, I got to get some quantum physics 101 here. Like, shoot, Hathor, my goodness. She's so beautiful and just brainy. It's really cool. Well, I guess the easiest way to put it is like, a single electron exists everywhere, and there's billion of them in your body, billions of them. One electron can't be tracked because it exists everywhere in the cosmos simultaneously, which means you exist everywhere simultaneously, no matter what your localized awareness might be telling you through your thought stream. Your electrons exist everywhere. They are the first manifestation of your soul within any physical world. So what Hathor is saying, ride the chariot of your electron to any incarnation that you're living simultaneously. Ride the chariot of the electrons within your body to discover the mysteries of your soul that is manifesting the miracle of your human body. Like, ride the electrons of your Holy Spirit to understand that you are always in communion with God consciousness, whether you are physically aware of it or not. It's just like, the electron is the miracle. It is the first sign of the divine inheritance of the soul entering into any physical world. So when you make the connection that all of physical reality requires electrons to build itself into something perceivable for us to engage with, you start to realize it really is like this Ark of the Covenant vehicle for our consciousness to discover the truth of our divinity, as well as the truth of our multidimensionality as souls, that we can be living multiple lifetimes, multiple timelines simultaneously. She's a trippy lady.
Very. And when she wasn't on Earth, she was going to another star system. What about that?
Well, she was living simultaneously, consciously. Here's the difference. We all are living multiple lifetimes simultaneously, but she's living... when she was walking the earth, she was living her lifetime simultaneously with conscious awareness. So that would mean she was on earth knowing what she was doing in her earthly body while also knowing exactly what she was up to in Sirius simultaneously. She was able to process all of that neurologically at the same time and other lifetimes simultaneously. That is our potential. That's why she's featured in the Sophia Code. There's no one featured in the Sophia Code that isn't mirroring back to us our own potential. So, going back to the beginning of this conversation, what is the new paradigm? I mean, the new paradigm is awakened, multidimensional, intuitive, conscious, psychic living as your daily practice, and being grounded about it. And don't be weird about it. Be cool.
It's like a whole new species is birthing right now. Basically, that's what I'm seeing. Do you think that the children? So we started off talking about the ancient ones and the children. Are the children that are being born right now on the planet embodying those new potentials that we're seeing in the Sophia Code?
I think some of them are. Very naturally. I think, in those ancient ones, they're not just the children, they're you. or people older than you. It's souls that have incarnated for many, 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 many lifetimes and achieved levels of mastery that bring forth wisdom and genius solutions into this world. But every soul that is a master that's coming in as an ancient one has to go through the process of facing that they incarnated into a slave matrix. They're swimming in an ocean of toxins and oppression, censorship and control. You know, depending on their DNA, depending on their bodies, depending on their upbringing, they may or may not actualize that mastery. And that's why it's so important that those who are truly capable of being the warriors that break through and manifesting this ability to reveal the ancient ones within us, it's our responsibility to hold the doors open so as many of those ancient ones can actually get through the awakening process. Because there's a lot of them that are shorting out an addiction, depression, suicide right now. Because I don't think there's enough people taking a stand for, you know, what it really takes to authentically wake up in this world and to stay awake. To stay sober to ourselves as sovereign creators. It's not like a part-time job. It's an everyday situation. If we want to actually transform this world and awaken enough of a tipping point of the population for that age of miracles to begin, like I don't clock out at 10 o'clock and like, cool, okay, it's over. Did my spiritual deal for the day. It's not even about being spiritual.
Got in my 10 minutes of meditation on my app. We're good.
Yes. You know, it's about authenticity. It's about being like truly committed to the inner journey, to your empowerment, to your inner healing, to your inner listening, like to your passions, to what you enjoy, you know, to health. Now, what are you going to listen to your heart? Or are you going to be controlled by your family or your friends? It's like these are the daily decisions that allow for these, maybe, because what I've noticed is that a lot of these ancient ones are coming in, but they don't have the drive to knock through some of these tougher walls that maybe like my generation had the drive to crack through. They're sort of waiting for someone else to break the walls down for them. And so it's like, how do we awaken that they have that same power within them so that they can fully actualize all of the magic and gifts that are within them, maybe at a softer vibration or resonance. Like there's a softness that I feel that just wasn't in my generation. We were like, whoa, we just airdrop down. There's a situation here. People are mad. Everyone's enslaved. Like, let's fucking go. You know, it's like, I want to see that for more of the younger generations. And I feel as though we need more leaders embodying that for them to know that it's okay for them to step into their power. I can't even imagine growing up and all you do is stare at a screen of social media feeds from like infancy on. That's whack. Like that can seriously disrupt certain levels of development that, you know, I'm curious how it's all going to unfold.
An animal I connect with a lot is the lion and the lioness. And, you know, it almost seems like that is an archetype that's needed on the planet right now because they have the ability to be very soft, very quiet, very chilled out. But the moment a lioness, someone messes with her cubs, it's like an all out, like, as you said, let's fucking go.
Let's fucking go. Yeah, here's my boundary. This guy, teeth and claws, you know, just like fangs out. Yeah. We have to be willing to defend the sacred, to take a stand for the sacred.
Beautiful. We're missing one.
Oh, wow. Where do you want to go?
White buffalo woman. the most mystical one of all.
Yeah. What do you want to talk about?
I mean, it almost seems like she is part of that birthing of a new species, especially with the white buffaloes that are coming on the planet. That's like a representation. It's like a genetic mutation, the white buffaloes, and there's only like 20 of them in the world or something of that nature. So do you think she represents that leap in, and she's also the crown chakra? Is she that leap in where we're going to?
She absolutely is. And she's the only ascended master featured in the Sophia Code that's native to this earth. So that's really interesting. She takes the ascension of this planet really seriously. Not that the others don't. It's just personal for her. It's, when it's just personal, you just know. You're just like, that is my dharma to do. And so she's a big part of overseeing the ascension of Sophia Gaia. And this manifestation of the white buffalo, which I've been blessed to be around, in our support of the Sophia Code Foundation supports the White Bison Association and works closely with them. And they are truly sacred beings. They're exactly what white buffalo women said they would be. And they are manifestations of her grace, and they absolutely represent this evolutionary leap. But here's the thing. When you read the White Buffalo Woman's chapter, what she is kind of lovingly demanding us to recognize is that our willingness is required for the evolutionary leap. Our willingness to be seen, our willingness to speak up, our willingness to be messengers, our willingness to use our gifts, our willingness to follow through, our willingness to see life as a ceremony, our willingness to take the time to mend what has been desecrated about the sacred. Like, White Buffalo Woman isn't about floating on a cloud. She's about rolling up your sleeves and getting your hands in the dirt and taking the time to really grow and heal and nurture what is required to be nurtured for a movement and consciousness to happen here on this planet. And so when you finally get your crown chakra activated by White Buffalo Women in the Sophia Code, you're like, it's grown-up time. It is adulting, spiritual, divine purpose, grown-up time. This isn't about spirituality as some sort of something on the side of your life. You realize that you've been called here to fulfill a very important purpose, and that your daily communion with your source and meditation and prayer is going to give you instructions that you're going to be asked to follow through on. And are you going to be brave enough and courageous enough on behalf of the community, right? Because everything's about the sacred hoop, the community, and White Buffalo Women's lineage. It's like, are you willing to show up and be a part of that? Because the ceremony is happening in ceremony. Like, you can't leave the ceremony and just go off to yourself by yourself. It's like, you got to get in the mix. You got to be a part of the awakening. You got to do your part. So when we meet White Buffalo Woman, she's activating our crown chakras to help us overcome spiritual infancy and step into spiritual maturity.
Beautiful. As we close out this segment on the Sophia Dragon Tribe, is there anything else that you feel would be pertinent to this conversation that we've been unfolding, and anything that the Ascended Masters would like to leave us with in that sense?
Well, what they're really imploring me to share is that there's nothing more important at this time than us all activating our divine genome. Because if you activate the motherboard within every cell of your body, the light of your own soul, the light of your own divinity, the consciousness of your higher self will start the transformational process that will guide you for how you are to fulfill your divine purpose. And this Age of Miracles is a miracle. It's called the Age of Miracles because we all show up to being way showers of miracles. We all become the miracle together. It's not about a single person saving any of us in this lifetime. That's not what this age is about. It's about each of us showing up, doing our part, and learning how to deeply love ourselves in that journey of awakening, so then we'll know how to actually love one another. Like, we have our ideas about love, and then there's actual what true unconditional love and support really is. And you can only know that by taking that true authentic journey for yourself first. And so, what I'm hearing them say is, we're here to guide you. We're here to mentor you. We're here to support you in your greatness, in your highest potential. We're not doing this alone. We have one another, and we have the Sophia Dragon Tribe as a high council of how to activate sovereignty both within us and in this world. And what an extraordinary lifetime that we get to show up to. So I want to thank you for this opportunity to share more about it, Emilio. It's been such a pleasure to have so many things to talk about together today.
We went deep. We went very deep.
Yeah. Did you have fun?
A lot of fun, and really getting to know, one of my favorite topics is a mixture between ancient history, spiritual teachings, and you're bridging both of those right now. And this awakening of the divine feminine is something that I've lived very personally since this podcast started, because I feel like this craft that I would call maybe interviewing or guiding these sort of conversations, for me, is surrendering to that feminine within me. And it's just like a whole bunch of creativity, letting go, not wanting to control the feminine. If I want to ask this question, like, that's where we're going to go. Like, and then we have the logical part, like, don't ask that, don't ask that, don't ask that. And then it's just like trusting fully. And I mean, I guess one of the last things I wanted to touch on with you is the role of men in this movement, in the divine feminine. How can we best support this movement, not only in ourselves, but also in the women in our lives that are activating this consciousness within them?
Wow. Well, I think what you shared about how the creativity of your podcast initiated you into recognizing the divine feminine within you, and how that enhanced your manhood. It's like being a man is a gift to this world. Like, a good man in his power, connected to the intuition and the creativity of the divine feminine within him, it's a gift to this world. And I think there's a crisis in this world where men and the masculine are being attacked unnecessarily. And the divine feminine role is here to uphold the divinity within men too. I actually saw a social media clip yesterday where this guy was letting this girl just kick him in the balls over and over again as like some sort of penance for being a man. Wow. And I was like, that is the farthest thing that you could do to heal relations between men and women, and between the masculine and the feminine. I was like, the more we can respect and honor the divine masculine, divine feminine within each of us, the more we can respect and honor the gift of our bodies and whatever genders we identify with, and how that is here to serve one another, not tear each other down, but to serve one another's awakening and healing and empowerment. That is the medicine that we need. I mean, the fact that you're able to consciously identify, oh my God, this creativity within me, how I'm not trying to control the interview process. I'm willing to be in the intuitive flow. It's like, I was so moved to hear you not just share that's your process from some calculated place. Like, I could feel you feeling how that is your process, and how it transforms you in real time as you keep stepping up to the spiritual practice of stepping up to the mic. You know, it's like that has become your altar. That has become a vehicle for your awakening, both as a embodied divine male, as well as honoring the divine feminine principles within you. Like, what an extraordinary example for other men to discover that they don't have to let go of what they love about being masculine. They can embrace their manhood and also cultivate these principles of the feminine within them as well, to enhance the ways that they're creating space, safe space for the feminine to thrive. Like, the masculine is here to help the feminine in its focus, and also to create the space, like, as pillars for the feminine to unfurl and expand exponentially in every dimension. Like, the feminine is so multidimensional, and that masculine principle helps ground, direct, focus, and even create protected space around the feminine fully unfolding. Because for the feminine to fully unveil herself is to make herself completely vulnerable in every way. Because all of creation wants to flow through the feminine and reveal itself through that vessel. I'm getting a little metaphysical there, but bottom line is we're all here to protect, serve, and uplift one another, to activate one another. And if you're wondering, well, if say you don't identify with one particular gender or another, it's just like, are you living an honorable life? Are you honoring the sacred within each other? And how are you exploring those principles within you of both receptivity and giving, taking a stand and also receiving and letting go? It's like, we're here to become conscious creators. And so anytime I see a man consciously creating in this world, it's a torch of faith and hope for other men and for humanity. Because there's so much brokenness trying to tear men down. It's just so unnecessary. We're all here to rise together.
Wow. I mean, it's so special because the timing of these conversations never fails. Last weekend, I came back from my first ever men's retreat, only men. And it was one of the most special experiences, ended in a psilocybin ceremony, hugging men for the first time, like truly like just being there with each other, talking about, you know, our relationship with our father, talking about things that we've done to women in the past that we want to heal and get beyond. Like, just the way that you're bringing that up and really seeing me and other men in that, I really honor that. And I see you for showing up also so vulnerably in this conversation. We end every show with a segment called the Final Trio, which are just rapid fire questions. But before that, where would you send people to connect with this beautiful work that you're unfolding in the world right now, and just to really soak in what you're creating? Where would you send people for that?
Yeah, thanks, Emilio. Well, you can find us at the Sophia Code Foundation.org. And you can also find me on my website at kaiara.com. And all of my social channels are Kaia Ra Official. YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, X. I post like more. I'll do reposts on X from other truther sites, which is kind of fun, that I don't put anywhere else. So yeah, please do check us out there. We'd love to hear from you. Beautiful.
For the final trio, the first one I have for you, the first two are personalized always to the guests, and then the final we ask at the end of every show.
Okay.
First one is, what is your legacy of love or your heart's vision for heaven on earth?
The legacy of love that I serve is to anchor Sophia Christ consciousness on the planet and to end rave consciousness on this planet. I will do anything and everything that I can to transform that consciousness into Sophia Christ consciousness. That's what I'm here to serve.
Thank you. Second question is, what is your heart? We've been talking a lot about the heart this conversation, but what does your heart tell you or say when you tune in to your deep love for humanity?
The very first thing that my heart says is, don't give up. Don't give up. We're almost there. Don't give up. There's so much ahead of us. So much ahead of us. There's so much golden light ahead of us. We just got to get through this. We just got to get through these times. But on the other side, it truly is a golden age. I swear. I swear it. And it already exists within us, within the ancient ones that are here.
Yeah. And we all know it to a certain degree, even if it's in the most subconscious realms of our mind. But we know it. We know that we're in for a golden age. It's been prophesized for centuries. So
yes.
The last question we call the time capsule question, and it requires us to travel out a little bit into the future, sort of like little Hathor vibes as well. But I chose this time frame, 15 to 20 years, because that's going to be a point in humanity where the younger generations of today are going to be stepping into more leadership positions around the world. And when they get to these leadership positions, they are going to have the opportunity to mentor with and receive teachings from people who have done it before and people who hold the keys of this wisdom. And you had your own time capsule to leave behind for them. You can include anything that you want inside of this time capsule. It doesn't have to be anything physical. It could be a transmission. It could be a word, a teaching. It could be an object if you want. There's no limitations to what you could leave behind. But knowing that in 20 years, the leaders of tomorrow, the children of today are going to be opening this time capsule and receiving anything that you had in your mind and heart to leave for them. What would that be?
I would say that you came here to be a part of an interstellar awakening. And by the time you are leading, you will not just be leading on this planet, but potentially in other realms, other places. But it's all connected. And that it will be vitally important for you to be connected to your bodies, your physical bodies, no matter how much we've evolved in technology, in AI, in robotics, in time travel. Your body is a gift and it should always be treated as such. And that if you are here to truly make the impact that your soul said that it would come here to make, you're going to have to heal every part of yourself and not leave any part of yourself behind, because your future self is needed as a whole being that came here to heal a very broken world and to create what has never been created before. And that requires a full connection to the wholeness of your divinity. Just as the masters who walked before you knew that they could only reach as many people as how much wholeness they were willing to reclaim for themselves, this will be the same for you. And although the times may appear different and the landscape could look very different of what you're living, it will always ever be a journey about discovering the divine and taking the time to care enough to help those who have forgotten that they are divine, that they are divine. No matter what the circumstances look like, it's always the same journey. We're all walking each other home back to the remembrance that we are holy and we are divine and we are sovereign. You did choose an extremely broken world. things happen one step at a time, even if those steps are quantum leaps. There's actually nowhere to get to except for more love. And so may your love change this world forever and become your own legacy that you leave behind.
So powerful. So powerful.
How's that?
And on the time capsule, there's a gold plate with your name on it. And you can etch in a question that you have for these leaders. But actually, I heard one that you said in another, I don't know if it was another show, but it was, at the end of your life, did you show up for what you said you were going to do with God? And
yeah,
that's powerful. Powerful stuff. Kaia Ra. Wow. Thank you for this multidimensional conversations. You took us to places that we have not been on this show. And even in my own heart space, I could feel, since we even got on the call and we did that little prayer intention setting, I just felt that it was going to be a very, very powerful conversation. And I know that for whoever is resonant to this frequency, to what you're bringing through, it activated them. So I would love to continue our conversations. This is a beautiful unfolding that you are a part of. And I'm just honored to be able to support you in that mission. And yeah, I can't wait to continue this mission with you. So appreciate you so much.
Thank you, Emilio. It was such a pleasure being here on your podcast. I really appreciate your light work in the world. It's a gift. Thank you for the opportunity to share about the Sophia Code here.
Of course, always welcome.